It's the MOPOWERZ, where knowledge is power. How are you all doing this terrific Tuesday? Me, I'm absolutely fabulous, and you too can be fabulous once you detach yourself from the matrix. And if this is your first time watching the MOPOWERZ, I ask that you share the information with relatives, friends, co-workers, hell, even the guy that's standing at the bus stop. It is a terrific way to jumpstart your conversation with someone that you know or don't know. And this conversation here would be to and or about Brother Ben X, Louis Farrakhan, and the Nation of Islam. Brother Ben X, humbly and respectfully, even though you may not truly understand, before we get started, I want to say that when you were still in diapers, I was practicing Islam in the nation. So I want to place that out there for you, seeing that you seem to be a bright, intelligent young man, but it seems to me that you too like to be misguided by Louis Farrakhan. And I say misguided by Louis Farrakhan because as long as you are under the religion of Islam, you, my brother, are in a slavery chamber. And if you're not understanding that Islam was used as the first religion to enslave black people in Africa, Al-Kubalan, Abyssinia, the motherland. Yeah. So why don't you tell those followers out there who are gathering themselves to the Nation of Islam and tell them that Islam placed them in chains? Why don't you tell them that Louis Farrakhan deceives these black men and women under disguise of Islam, just as the European has deceived and disguised themselves under Christianity, and some even under Judaism? Why don't you tell them, Brother Ben X, why don't Louis Farrakhan tell them that all the religions are a form of enslavement? Why don't you tell them, Brother Ben X, that the Nation of Islam is a Masonic order? Why don't you tell them that, Brother Ben X? Why don't you tell them that Prophet Muhammad was a pedophile marrying 9-year-old girls? Why don't you tell him that, Brother Ben X? Why don't you tell them that Louis Farrakhan calls homosexual men his brother, even though they perpetrated these sexual acts upon little kids? And I'm talking about Dr. Malachi York that was down there in Georgia, who admitted to the European judge in the European courts that he did sexually assault those kids. Why would Louis Farrakhan say that or call Dr. Malachi York, who is a known pedophile now, why would he call him his brother? I'm just saying. Why is it that Louis Farrakhan would call another gay man who has deceived people under the religion of Christianity and Jesus Christ, why would he call that man his brother? And I'm talking about Bishop Eddie Long. Is it because they are running the same scam, Brother Ben X? I'm just saying. And yes, I said it's a scam. It's a scam because while you're teaching people about Islam, you're not teaching the black people that you're trying to reach that Islam is what enslaved them. You're not telling them that. You're not telling them that the ayat and the surahs actually come from a Kemetic form of origin. Why don't you tell them that? Why don't you tell them that we had a decent life before Prophet Muhammad came over to Al-Kubalan from the eastern part of Al-Kubalan and placed us in chains under Islam in 725 AD. Brother Ben X, why don't you tell these black brothers and sisters how Prophet Muhammad and the Jews had a political agreement until Prophet Muhammad got somewhat greedy and the Jews stopped financing him. Why don't you tell them, Brother Ben X, that according to your own religion, that the holy city is really Jerusalem versus Mecca? Why don't you tell them that, Brother Ben X? Why is it that Louis Farrakhan tells people that the holy city is Mecca when it's not Mecca? In fact, if that was the holy city, why in the beginning was the Muslims paying adoration to the Golden Dome in Jerusalem versus the Kaaba? I'm just saying. Why don't you tell them that? Why don't you tell them how the Jews and the Arabs have this close-knit relationship and why they have that close-knit relationship? You talk about the secret relationships between the blacks and the Jews. Well, why don't you tell the brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam about the secret relationship between the Arabs and the Jews? I'm just saying, because it was the Arabs who first enslaved us with Islam long before the European came with the Jesus Christ effect. That's just real talk. I mean, think about it. You have silly black people running out here talking about they're Christians. You have silly black people running out here talking about that they are Jews. You have silly black people running out here talking about they are Muslims. In fact, what were black people before Islam, Christianity, and Judaism? What was black people's religion then, Brother Ben X? I saw your video the other day where you had this other brother driving in the car and you was recording him as he was giving you stories about Elijah Muhammad. Now, with that, this brings another issue about why don't you tell the people how Minister Louis Farrakhan deviated from the teachings of Elijah Muhammad? Why don't you tell the people, Brother Ben X, how Elijah Muhammad accepted finances from the opposition, meaning KKK members, people who funded he was funded by a white man. He was funded by the same white man that funded the KKK. Why don't you tell him, these people, about that, Ben X? Why don't you tell these people how the Nation of Islam, the way that they dress, is similar to that of the York Rite Masons or the Scottish Rite Masons? It's one of those two. Why don't you tell those people that? And sadly, why don't you tell the people, why did Louis Farrakhan invite the black women and men over to an evil satanic cult called, you know what it is, that who, L. Ron Hubbard? Yeah, Scientology. Why don't you tell them who L. Ron Hubbard is? And maybe you should even tell them how Elijah Muhammad could possibly be rolling over in his grave, seeing that Louis Farrakhan has instructed or advised or worked to persuade members in the Nation of Islam to go over to the devil because the God that he represents is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And sadly and funny, you know, how can that be? If the white man is the devil, how is Louis Farrakhan advising and persuading black men and women to go over to a white man's devil's cult? I'm just saying. Maybe you can help me out with that. I would really love to have a debate with you sometime, Brother Ben X, so that I can educate you in a intellectual way Nothing to be derogatory about. I was once where you were. That's how I can tell you what I can tell you. Why don't you tell the people how Louis Farrakhan disowned Brother Khalid Muhammad? Why don't you tell these people that while you are instructing them on Louis Farrakhan and on Elijah Muhammad? Why don't you tell these people these things? I would love to hear some feedback from you. And anybody that's out there that is Muslim, Christian, or Jew, that have anything to say or disagree with what I had to say about whatever that it is that I just spoke to you about, especially the brothers and the sisters that's in the Nation of Islam. Not to be disrespectful, because I came from that branch. I ate from that tree. This is why I'm able to tell you what I'm able to tell you. Not out of hate, but out of love. But most importantly, why don't you tell those brothers and sisters that's in the Nation of Islam how Louis Farrakhan got you worshiping a white Jesus under the name of Master Fraud Muhammad. Master Fraud Muhammad. I would love to debate you, brother, and have an intellectual conversation so that I can really point out some key issues to you that you either know about and throw them under the rug to keep the good name, so-called good name of the nation intact. Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan has done some great things over the years, but in the end, he misled the people, he misdirected the people, because he sold out back in the 90s. Why don't you tell them that, brother Ben X? It's your brother, MOPOWERZ, where knowledge is power. I would love to hear comments from anybody in the comment section. By all means, to be aware is to be alive, and remember, your third eye makes you shine like jewelry. Thanks for viewing. It's the MOPOWERZ, where knowledge is power.